Hello. Hey, everyone. Oh, camera's a little... That'll work. Hello. Thanks for coming today. The third iteration of the Formlabs Community Round-Up. I'm so excited to be here. This will be great. We'll give folks just a minute to hop in, see if anyone else is going to join right as we get started here. Otherwise, we'll get into it. Hey, Steve. Welcome back again. Glad to have you. There we go. Hope everyone's having a good week so far. Apologies as usual as I look over here to my chat. Parth, thank you so much for joining us. Where are you coming in from? What are you working on today? All right. Well, we'll get started, and hopefully we get some more folks hopping in. But yeah, no need to wait. Let's hop right in. I'm excited about a new live stream too. I'm so glad you're here. From India, excellent. All right. I won't spend too much time on this. I know a lot of you have been here before and know the deal, but pretty similar agenda to what we've done before. Some user highlights, some Formlabs product updates, content highlights, where we're at this month, a quick interview with a formling, and then some hanging out for Q&A, which will be great. I won't spend too much time on this. If you're curious for more detail on what the Roundup is, feel free to watch episodes 1 or 2 of the Formlabs Community Roundup. But basically, it's a monthly show I put together to, talk about what's going on at the company, what's going on in our community, talk to you guys, just to have a little more of an active dialogue with what's going on. Chan, thanks for joining us. I'm in Massachusetts as well. Whereabouts are you located? Welcome. It's a beautiful day here. I'm so excited. I know we're sitting inside on the computer, but we can take a walk afterwards or something. It'll be great. Let's hop right into some user highlights. Just wanted to start with this one because it's really cool, and I'm someone who reads PC Gamer occasionally, as someone who does gaming on PC, and I was surprised to see our printers pop up on PC Gamer, which was really rad. So yeah, this is a story about a company called Clackies. They make custom mechanical keyboard keycaps. As you can see a little example here. It's a snowy day in Idaho. Excellent. I actually used to live in Wyoming, so I'm pretty used to the snow all the way into March or April pretty regularly. So yeah, these are some really cool custom keycap projects that I would recommend everyone go check out if you're into this world, or even if you're not. Just some really cool kind of small scale art projects that I think are really exciting and neat. I'll mention, just because I forgot at the top, everything I reference in this deck should be linked in the description below this video. Feel free to jump down there and click over to whatever I'm talking about, just because I know it's hard to condense too much into one slide. So feel free to do additional reading. Please go check out these things. But this PC Gamer article is really cool. They go into the detail on how Formlabs printers are used in the mold making, modeling process, all that kind of stuff. Pretty neat. Chan from Lowell. Awesome. Not too far away. That's very cool. Ola from Colombia. Thanks for joining us, Jorge. Really glad to have you here. I'll say, please feel free to drop me questions about whatever I'm mentioning here or anything else you want to throughout. I know chat is important, and I want to make sure I'm keeping an eye on it and answering questions. Next up, another just a quick one from Instagram that I just thought was really cool. This is an artist named, I think it's ZWYU, or if it's not, I'm not going to take a swing at how it's pronounced. But they posted this really cool picture of kind of the same model on a couple different printers. I don't know if they even put here what the original printer was, and even if they did, I'm not looking to start any fights about it, but I think it is a really amazing comparison of what I'm assuming is a lower, an entry-level SLA machine versus the Form 3 you can see there on the right. Just a huge difference, and some really beautiful sculpting and especially painting work. If you're interested in model painting, I would highly recommend checking out this user on Instagram, who, like I said, is also linked below. They've just done some really cool projects, and I think they outline kind of their painting process. Really neat. Curious to know, anyone in our chat, have you done much painting of Formlabs resins? If so, how? What's been your process like? I like hearing everyone's individual workflow for that stuff, because it's so variable depending on the industry you're in, what your project is, what your end result is, all that kind of stuff. I'd love to know if anyone's working on that sort of project. Jump into the next one here. This one I won't dwell too long on, but it's pretty cool. At the start of the pandemic last year, Formlabs teamed up with USF Health in Florida and Northwell Health in New York, and combined forces to start printing the swabs for COVID-19 testing. We produced a couple 100,000 of them, and they were sent out to doctors all over the world for testing, and it was just, for being such a emotionally draining time at Formlabs and in the world, it was exciting to feel like, oh, we're having some impact, and that felt really good. So this was a 1-year anniversary post of that from last March, and I just wanted to bring it up. Steve, model painting is really cool. My roommate, who also works at Formlabs, is one of our print farm managers. He is an exceptional artist and painter, and maybe it'd be cool if you guys are interested, we could get him on to one of these roundups sometime to answer questions or talk about his workflow for how he approaches painting Formlabs parts. It's pretty cool. Estinson, no painting, strictly jewelry. Good to know. Yeah, probably not a lot of painting in your pre-firing, pre-burnout setup on that one. That probably not a good use of anyone's time. Awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. If not during the roundup, Steve, we've done painting sessions with him before, just as a free sort of Formlabs webinar. I'd be happy to ask if he'd be up for doing another one of those, and answering some questions about how he puts his stuff together. Next one, switching gears again to another different industry. This is a Twitter post, I believe, I linked a Twitter post below from a company called Amalgam Model Making. This particular project, I think architectural prints are so cool. It's also a bit of a weird spot for us because, just by virtue of the way SLA printers work, architectural models are kind of hard, a lot of overhangs, things like that. So I'm always really excited when I see a really cool, interesting architectural model like this. So it looks like these folks, Amalgam Model Making, are doing some sort of restorative work or model making work for Cambridge University in the UK. Really cool, and these beautiful kind of window fixtures and things were all printed on the Form 3. Just pretty neat. Not a ton to say about that one. I just like architectural stuff when I see it because, like I said, not the most common industry for us, but still cool. And I think there are plenty of people who are doing interesting things with it. And I know last month I mentioned that it was very cool seeing Adam Savage just do a video with the Form 3 printer behind him. This is Adam Savage of Tested and formerly Mythbusters, for anyone who's not aware. This month, just a couple days ago on Sunday, he did a really robust unboxing video and setup video for his 3L, along with building a cart to put the printer on so you can roll it around his studio. It's a really great video. I encourage everyone to check it out. He does his very first print on it, and I can tell you from the Formlabs side, we were all like our heart was in our throat a little bit about whether that first print would finish properly, and it did, which was great. Excuse me. So yeah, highly recommend everyone watch that video. It's really fun and cool to see how excited he is about this printer. And if you're just interested in the 3L at all and want more detail about the setup process and plugging it in and installing cartridges and tanks and build platforms and all that stuff, he does a really good job of going through the whole thing. Hopefully with more actual printing content to come as he gets more into that world. Tame, welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining us. Tame asks, what's the best models for jewelry? So Tame, are you asking what's the best material, or yeah, feel free to give me a few more details and I'd be happy to answer your question, because it's a good one. Yeah, Steve, it's hard not to be excited. I totally agree. It still kind of blows my mind when I'm near one. I'm like, oh, this thing's so big and cool. It's exciting. And I'm so excited to see what he does with it. I believe his first project was the Mandalorian helmet with the 3L, and he's doing it in 2 or 3 pieces. So really cool and exciting, and I'm so pumped to see what more he does. And like I said, as a kid who grew up on Mythbusters, and that sort of informed a lot of how I approach the world and science and all that sort of stuff. It's a pretty surreal thing for me personally, working here and seeing him get excited about the 3L. It's pretty cool. Quick little product highlight. This wasn't a brand new material, but it's one that I don't think we've covered on the community roundup, so I figured I'd just give it a brief mention here. Since it has a 3 now, so you have to have a 3L. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I've definitely heard of people trying to sort of justify the purchase price to bosses and budget wings of companies and things like that. Luckily, in a couple prints, it often will pay for itself. I know that's a weird salesy thing to say, but it really does work like that, depending on how often you're sending out for parts and things. Have you watched any of the Savage builds? Yes, not all of them, but definitely some. The titanium 3D printing, no, I have not seen them do metal 3D printing. That is really cool. I will absolutely check that out. Yeah, metal printing is such a crazy industry. We actually have Desktop Metal is also local to the Boston area, right near where Formlabs is. So a lot of Formlabs employees have ended up there after time. Some Desktop Metal people have come to Formlabs, so there's definitely some cross-pollination between those companies around us, and they're doing incredible, cool work. So exciting and neat. And also, I'm just a sucker for a complete Iron Man armor build. One of our engineers who is no longer with the company, but he did a complete suit, and it's always, it's a pretty easy way, or not, I should say not easy. It is an incredibly difficult but cool way to win a costume contest. How about that? Aaron Christensen, nice of you to join us. We just received our form washing care at my workplace. Printer should be coming soon. Very excited to put it to work making tools and fixtures. Awesome. Very cool. Is that the main use? Is for I know jigs and fixtures is a common use of our printer, so that's good to know. That's the use you're getting out of it. That's exciting. Hopefully you'll have some after hours time as well where you can print whatever you want. That's always, I love hearing stories of engineers who get a printer at their work and then they say, yeah, well, overnight I was doing a bunch of hobby prints and things like that. Here's I just wanted to mention Rigid 10K. Like I said, not brand new for us, brand new in the last couple months or so, but I don't think I brought it up in a community roundup, so I figured I'd just mention it really quick here. It's a really cool material. It's the closest material. Actually, it's interesting that we were talking about metal, because it's the closest material we get to metal 3D printing. It's incredibly stiff. The material is glass infused, so there's glass particles in it, which make it really, really stiff. And ideal for things like you can see in this picture there. Obviously not like a jet turbine probably, but things like fan blades, like really, really stiff materials, things that need to be really stiff and robust. It's a really cool material, and if anyone is interested out there in injection molding or silicone molding, things like that, rigid, because it's so stiff, it holds lines and details really well, and makes it really great for things where you need, like a mold, where you need the material to sort of stay static more than any of our other materials. It's really neat for that. And yeah, happy to answer more questions about rigid if anyone has them, but I figured I'd just bring it up as a cool thing that people should check out. If you're curious, we have free sample parts for every material we make. You can just put your information in and get sent whatever material you're looking at. So if you'd like to see kind of how any of these feel in your hand, just go to I'll put the link in the chat in just a minute, to where you can get to our free sample part request. Some other stuff just going on in the world of Formlabs that I figured I'd mention. Last 2 weeks ago, maybe now, my colleague and I, actually Jake, who I mentioned earlier, the one who's a very good painter and artist, he and I did a live stream where we just answered a bunch of questions about the Fuse one. It was a great session, a ton of really good questions. If you have any confusion about the Fuse or anything else, and you just want to get some answers from people who have used them and had to learn to use them, because he was not someone who developed the printer, but he was able to use it afterwards. It's just a great session to get a lot. We did like 50 minutes of questions or something like that. It was really fun. Chan says, introduce your kids to 3D printing, they'll never have money for drugs. Yeah, that's accurate. Very much so. One of those hobbies like, bicycles or something, where as soon as you get in, all of a sudden this whole world of other stuff to buy pops up. Even though the purpose of 3D printers is to sort of make things rather than buy things, all of a sudden you're like, well, if I had this, then I could make this, and it all spirals out of control after that. But also, I'd advocate, hey, get your kids into 3D printing. In terms of vices, it's probably one of the least harmful to have. If you want to check out this session, it's completely free. Check out a link below. And on that, should be different text there. Apologies. We did a software demo as well. So we brought on Grant Thomas Lepore, who is the software project lead here at Formlabs. So he handles things like preform, firmware updates, all that kind of stuff and dashboard updates, things like that too. So he did a sort of latest and greatest presentation, a similar hour, answering questions about software, what's been recently added, what's coming soon, all kinds of stuff. If you're interested in some upcoming features that are coming to Preform, anything else about our printer, even things like what Preform looks like when you're using a Fuse, all that stuff is discussed in there. It's a great presentation, and Grant did a great job, so thank you to him for coming. And yeah, like I said, link down below. Go check that out. Completely free, and a great way to answer a lot of questions. Can never have enough filament resin powder. Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure, Formlabs isn't helping by continuing to release new materials, but I'm hoping most people out there are not just buying everything. You probably don't need, unless you have one of the wildest businesses I've ever heard of, you probably don't need all 26 Formlabs materials or anything like that. If you're listening to this and you're out there and you are using 26 materials, please let me know. I want to know what the heck you're working on, because that sounds exciting. All right. Really quickly. So, Carrie Jules from our people operations team, which is similar to our HR team, was gracious enough to sit down with me for a few minutes to talk about sort of recruiting at Formlabs, what we look at Formlabs when it comes to hiring, things like that. This is a quick 10-minute interview. I'll let the video play, and then I'll hop back on afterwards for questions and hanging out. I'll just give a quick warning. The first 5 or 10 seconds of this interview got a little garbled, so I apologize for that. It starts 10 seconds in. Essentially, I said, hey, Carrie, thanks for joining us. Tell us how you ended up at Formlabs, things like that. And then the video picked up after that. So apologies for the weird start to this video. But yeah, enjoy it. Let me know if you have any questions about it, and I'll be back in 10 minutes.
Formlabs. I've been here for about 4 years, and I was introduced to Formlabs through my previous job in between 2006 and 10. I worked at a startup called Bronte's Technologies, and they were creating a scanner that would scan your teeth and push that image ultimately to a 3D printer.
Hmm.
And so this was pre Formlabs, and the SLA printers were huge.
Hmm.
And so during my time there, ultimately the company was acquired by 3M, which was wonderful. It had a great exit. And but during that time there, my CEO had connected with Max,
Hmm.
and Max had come on site, and we weren't necessarily introduced, but I remember seeing him come on site, and I remember that day because our CEO was super excited about a smaller
Hmm.
SLA printer. And so in 2010, when 3M closed our facility to move it to Minnesota, they closed it on the day that I was due to have my third child, and I was planning to
Okay.
stay home. So I exited the workforce for a little bit. And during that time, Virginia White, who is one of our senior HR people here, had connected with me at that time to say, hey, how do I do this startup E? Like, we're, 20, like, what did you do? And ask for
Hmm.
some advice at that stage, because I had, again, with that previous company, gone from very small to a bit larger. So we had connected there, and some of the employees that I worked with worked at Formlabs. So fast forward a few years, I'm ready to re-enter the workforce, and I
Hmm.
connected with Virginia, and that is coincidingly, they had a role open for their first technical recruiter, and so here I am. So it's a little bit long, but I thought it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, that's much appreciated. And yeah, I mean, I like asking that because everyone has their own interesting,
Yep.
weird story for how they
Yep.
end up here.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. And yeah, easy next question. What's your favorite part of working at Formlabs?
Yeah, I came to my passion of really loving innovation and technology late in life. I had no idea that
Hmm.
I get interested. And so in my role, I get to talk to so many interesting people who have done on the forefront of innovation. And innovation
Hmm.
can happen in any field and industry. So I don't get tired of those conversations. I just don't. It's been 4 years. I love my 4 interviews. I love getting to know people and what they're working on, and hearing about like early SpaceX projects, and all with
Hmm.
NDA, but like
Of
hearing about
course, yeah.
all this in it, yeah, but all this like forefronting, hearing about the technology happen even before it hits the media is like what I love.
Yeah. I'm pretty similar. I mean, that's my favorite part of the marketing team is that one
Yep,
day I'm talking to the prop master at Marvel, the next day I'm
yep,
talking to a doctor, the next
for
day it's
sure.
all
Yep,
it's all
yeah,
crazy like that.
yep,
Um, and how about the most challenging aspect of working at Formlabs, either with the pandemic specifically or just
yeah.
generally?
No, so one of the things that it's recruiting's hard in general,
Hmm.
so there's that aspect. But one of the things I thought about this is you'll hear when you ask people what do they love, a lot of times they're going to say the people. And
Yeah.
and that's something I take pride in, because obviously I've helped hire the people and helped create the process. It's a team,
Hmm.
I'm one member of that, but created the process to create this environment. um, and so ensuring that we're doing that correctly,
Hmm.
I feel like is a huge responsibility, because you have to have culture ads, you have to ensure diversity, and also we have sometimes hiring managers have a very narrow skill set that they're looking for,
Hmm.
in navigating that well, because there's trade-offs sometimes you have to coach to. I feel that responsibility. It's a problem I think about a lot. Like that's where my
Hmm.
headspace is a lot.
Yeah. I mean, you sort of just answered this, but I'll sort of swoop it into my
Yeah,
next question. But yeah, is there anything unique, challenging, in particular, you feel
yeah.
about Formlabs in the hiring process?
Yeah. So in this one, in the hiring process, the one thing I would think with any company, like you don't want a necessarily unique process, like because
Hmm.
people are so nervous coming into it. And the process is essentially, it's two people, get like a company getting to know a human, right? And
Hmm.
so you want some predictability for that human, because they're nervous. It's a extremely stressful process.
Hmm.
On the rails, like there's research on the scale of like what causes stress. Interviewing is right up there.
Yeah.
So you want something reliable and predictable. but you want to make sure that you're on the forefront of how to engage with candidates. And that is
Mhm.
something that in recruiting is really trendy, right? Glassdoor was the bee's knees not too long ago. It's still pretty up there, but it's not, I see it shifting a little bit and I see
Mhm.
other players coming into the market. So you have to stay on top of your tools, how to engage with people. Um, but the challenging part is when a recruiter will tell you, you only have so many resources and it's where you put your time. It is like those resource tap games or whatever, like,
Yeah.
but Catan, let's settle the Catan. You only have
Yeah.
so many armies and like you have only so many things that you can do. Where are you
Right.
going to get the best benefit? And you want to do that in a process that is really humane to the candidate and gives them a good experience.
Yeah.
So,
And keep them informed throughout, I'm sure.
all that's another one. And yeah, and sometimes you don't have the answers and you don't want to go back. You've already told them you don't have the answers and you still don't have the answers, and like navigating that process.
Yeah.
And know that like I just, yeah, it's just times I just ache. I'm like, oh, I need to tell them something and I wish I had a different response other than I don't know,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever that response is, or it's not a no, or
Right. Not yet.
cetera. Not
Or
yet, or
yeah.
this isn't a fit. Like for me personally, if I ever get hardened to the fact that I have to tell someone they're not a fit, even at the resume review when I'm not necessarily talking to someone, like then
Yeah.
I should be out of the game, right? That should never be easy because
Absolutely.
it's yeah, it's important.
Yeah. It's someone's life and you're sort of helping to
Exactly.
do what
Yep.
you
And it's
can for
life
them.
changing. And one of the things I believe is that you spend more time of your awake time with your coworkers. Like it's such an important thing
Yeah.
that, we have to make sure that it's right on both sides.
Yeah. And I'll say when I'm doing an interview with someone and they ask me what I like about working here, I give the cliche people answer too, because it's true. So
It's true. And then it's
you're
like, but you
doing
want
good
to
work.
like, thank you. Yeah. I feel that responsibility. Let me put it that way.
Awesome. And yeah, another kind of hiring question. Are there any kind of, I know this you do a lot, there's a lot of different teams at Formlabs, but are there any sort of overarching attributes you look for in a recruit
Yeah.
for Formlabs?
We do for sure. And so this one is critical thinking, like first principle thinking
Mm-hmm.
in your own industry and field and where you're at. Like, do you understand what worked and didn't work and why? And were you able
Yeah.
to really drive that down? And so that thought process and approaching your work that way
Mm-hmm.
is, a theme. And another theme is that, we're looking for people who can flourish in an environment. The way I describe the work culture at Formlabs is autonomous, results driven.
Yeah.
Hiring manager said that to me once, and I'm like, I'm stealing that.
Yeah.
And because people will always ask me what it's like, and I'm like, autonomous, results driven, and they'll kind of zero in. I'm like, seriously, I don't know how to, like, it truly is you're going to be independent. You'll give some scope of work, but we're really looking for you to, like, if you come into a pain point or a roadblock, to do some research and ask informed questions,
Yeah.
because formlings love to answer questions, especially if they're good ones. Like,
Yeah.
I can stop anyone and I can go up to anyone who, other people sound like would think they're into, but if I can ask a good question, they will stop what they're doing and answer. That's like a formlink trait that I love.
Yeah.
um, but it is that really kind of self-driven. The other piece to that, I would say, is ability to really understand the hows and whys of what you're doing and being self-driven.
Yeah. And yeah, from my experience, I would totally agree. If you're someone who needs sort of frequent check-ins, it's a tough
Yep.
environment,
Yep. And
especially right
structure
now. But
too, right? Like the
yeah.
structure piece. I mean, we are, I've had people say, we're making the plane, as we're flying it, for sure. The pace is quick. I'm seeing more stability as time goes on. But it's definitely, the road can shift and you have to be able to pivot with it.
Yeah, especially when you're inventing products that haven't existed before, you need people
Yep.
who are willing to
Yep.
sort of jump over that wall.
Yep.
uh,
Yep. And expect the unexpected. Yeah.
yes, exactly. Well, this was great. We got one last easy fun question for you, but what's your favorite thing you 3D printed at your time at Formlabs?
I listen to it and I'm like, it's so long since I printed, but I will tell
I
you
know.
this. And also in my role, I, deal with the engineers who are making great prints. So I was like, I still remember Baby Yoda, like right when it came out
Sure.
2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? So one of the engineers was printing the Baby Yodas with the like Christmas cape.
Uh-huh.
And I have three boys, so I was like stocking stuffers, and he's like, "Hey, I'm running a whole thing. I'll run it for you." And so
Yeah.
I actually he ran me the Baby Yoda for
Yeah.
stocking stuffers. So that was a big hit.
That's a good one. Yeah, it's so funny how our office sort of picks up around the holidays when everyone goes like, I need to make ornaments
Yeah.
for my
Yeah.
friends and stuff.
Yeah, I know, I know.
Yeah.
I will say another print that floats around, and I don't know how much it gets out there, but it's just like so much fun to play with and
Mhm.
interact with, is the crab. The with
Yes.
the legs that move, like that are printed so that it's all in there. And just from a sensory point of view, getting a hold of that and shaking it and holding
Yeah.
it.
I know I
And
fiddle with my fuse bull or
yeah,
ox all
yeah, yeah, yeah.
day.
But they have the crab and you can shake it, makes a great noise. And then the
Yeah.
other one, I don't know if you've had, again, this is one that I have printed, but it has a handle with a brush, and it's
Mm-hmm.
made from flexible that you can brush your hands over.
Yes.
So because we get sample parts, so we run around. And the other thing too is I'll run around off of the when we're going to a career fair or an event.
Mhm.
Know the engineers, so I'll run around and grab things off their desks, and I get a hold of the like some really good prints that way. But the one
Yeah.
with the brush is that's a great one.
Good choices.
Yeah.
Well, Carrie, thank you so much for your time. This was great. I appreciate you doing it first thing in the morning. And
No worries.
yeah, hopefully we'll get you back soon, and hopefully maybe
Okay.
someone from who's watching this will contact you at some point.
That would be great. That would
That
be
would be
great.
great.
All right. Take care, Dan.
Have
Thanks.
a great day. All right, I'm back. Just want to say thank you again to Carrie for taking the time to join me for that. Everyone at Formlabs is very busy, and I'm always very grateful when I can get a few minutes with someone's time. And I really appreciate her insights on the complex task of hiring at Formlabs, especially during a pandemic, which is no easy thing. So, yeah, huge thank you to Carrie for taking the time. Also realizing how much of a hand talker I am watching that, which is always fun to get self-conscious about. So, yeah, we move on from there. I just want to repeat as usual. I have a Google form, totally anonymous survey in the description below this video. People have left me comments after every one of these sessions, which has been really appreciated. It really helps me determine how to evolve this concept over time. So I'm doing what's best for you guys, our community, our audience. One thing I heard loud and clear is that you guys would like more hands-on, which is really good for me to know. I think more specifics would be great on if there's anything in particular hands-on you'd like to see, whether that's me doing some modeling, whether that's me getting a print ready for printing and preform, whether that's post-processing and finishing. I have the ability to probably get a printer. I have a printer in our apartment already. I have the ability to use that if I need to for stuff. So yeah, let me know what you'd like to see. I definitely hear you loud and clear that hands-on is really important, and we totally understand that. Like without in-person trade shows right now, and the opportunities Formlabs usually has to sort of let people touch and feel our materials and sort of experience them firsthand, literally. Without that, I understand how sort of someone else hands-oning in front of you for you can sort of help with that a little bit. So if there's anything specific you'd like to see in that arena, please let me know. I'd love to make this content work for you guys too. Like I said, here's just some feedback I got previously. Less time spent on housekeeping. Totally understand. That's why I'm trying to kind of breeze through the intro stuff. More hands-on demos, like I said. What do you want to see? And more chat interaction, which is what I'm always trying to strive for. Shoebank Ready says maybe modeling and printing. Cool. I'm not a master CAD artist. I have some experience, several years with Maya, and have done quite a bit of work with that. And I'm happy to sort of do some demos and things if people are curious. Steve, doing a print from the community every month, that's a terrific idea. I really like that. Yes, it would be a lot of work to manage, but I love where your head's at. I think that'd be really cool. Yeah, that's a great question. I need to think more about what that would look like, and sort of at what steps I would do myself, and what steps I would sort of, maybe even mail it to the user, or do the painting, do the post processing, all that kind of stuff. I think that's an interesting question, but I love that idea. Yeah, maybe even something like a particularly challenging part, or just something cool you'd like to show off to Formlabs. Yeah, there's a ton of options. That's a really terrific idea. You want to see me do a burnout for jewelry? Cool, great. I am not equipped in my house to do that. But we have a lot of content around that is for that. So we may even have a live burnout demo already. I'd have to go back and check. But if we don't, I think it's a great idea to do a kind of, let's just point a camera at the machine, at the kiln, and show the whole process. I think that's a hugely valuable thing to show off. Oh yeah, you want to see me do it from scratch? That would be intense. And really exciting. Because I'm not a jeweler. I have very little experience messing with jewelry. That'd be really cool. Let me just jump into the next slide here, which I think is the last one. Like I said, we got some time now. I'm happy to hang out for a little while for some Q&A. If you have questions about anything Formlabs related in general, I will do my best to answer. 3D printing in general, if you just want to show off something cool that you're working on, whatever. Throw it into chat. We got some people hanging out. I'm happy to look. Joy, this is more because I'm a student, but maybe talks with engineers and designers at Formlabs about where they got to where they are today. Joy, absolutely, yeah. So the interview I just played with Carrie was the third of these I've done. This is the third community roundup. I don't know if you've seen the previous ones, but that is exactly what I like to ask folks, is sort of how they ended up at Formlabs, what brought them here. Everyone has a really weird story coming to Formlabs, so it's always exciting to hear that. And if there are more specifics about getting hired, I'm also happy to talk about my experience getting hired at Formlabs if that's valuable. Feel free to pop it into chat if that's something you'd like to hear about. More case studies, Stephen. Great thing to bring up. We do tons of case studies. Give me one moment and I will throw in a link to chat that has a ton of our case studies. And customer applications, mostly customer applications. We, just to sort of pull the curtain back a little bit on how Formlabs approaches marketing and things like that. We found that, and I'm sure most people would agree with this, that talking about the machine specs and the laser spot size and all that stuff is obviously valuable and critical for someone making a decision about buying a printer. But that stuff only goes so far. You need to show off the stories, the cool customer things that people are working on. Maybe people don't even know what our printer is capable of. Maybe we don't even know what our printer is capable of, and one of our customers is doing something really cool and exciting. And then, we want to show it off and tell other people. And maybe there's a jeweler doing stuff that could help an engineer, or vice versa. Maybe an engineer is doing stuff that could make jewelry workflows easier, and typically those two verticals are just not cross-pollinating very often. So if we, as the Formlabs marketing team, can find ways to connect our audience, you guys, with those stories, that's a huge thing for us, and something we take really seriously. We always try to defer first to a customer experience before we do something more in-house. Let me bring up these resources really briefly. So this first link I'm posting is to our resources page, what we call was a really big collection of things from our blog, white papers, all that kind of stuff. A pretty big percentage of these are directly customer facing and are case studies from customers specifically. So this is a great place to start. And then the second link I'm going to throw up here in just a second is to our Formlabs sessions page. So while that link I just posted is more written content and blog posts, white papers, like I said, this one is the video content I discussed previously. So like the Q&A, we did for the Fuse, or the Q&A and webinar I did with our software lead. That stuff will fall under this umbrella. But we also do a lot of content with our users and talking to them about their experiences. And there's that second link for everyone. And yeah, if anything there strikes your fancy, if you're most curious about, I think on the video side of the customer stories specifically, if you search on the left-hand bar of that sessions page and you hit, let's see here. If you go down to event types on the left-hand side and hit office hours is our sort of roundtable discussion format where we talk to customers and other industry folks about what they're working on and get into some workflows, and then often have time for Q&A at the end. So if that's the stuff you're interested in, Stephen, or anyone else who's listening, that's a really great place to check stuff out. For anyone who's watching this recording after the fact, I'll make sure to put those links in the description below for the recording so that you don't have to dig through chat to find them, because I know that can be annoying. That's most of what I've got. Anyone else in chat have anything they wanted to ask about? High detail print samples. Tim, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right. Great question. So it depends on what you mean by detail. Here, let's, for example, I keep some models next to me here. Let me make sure I'm showing this properly to the screen. So this is a print done in Gray Pro. This is a character from Borderlands that is just really, really gorgeous. Gray Pro is probably my personal favorite for model making material. I did not model that one. I can show off one I did model. There we go. So obviously this is not my design. This is from Warhammer, but I modeled this from scratch because, for good reason, they don't want their intellectual property out there as an STL. But yeah, Gray Pro is my kind of high detail material of choice. If you're looking for high detail in jewelry, obviously you want to go with our jewelry resins, either castable or castable wax 40. Yeah, exactly. Stinson says the jewelry sample is high detail. Yeah, exactly. We try to angle those sample prints to highlight the feature of that material as best as we possibly can. Obviously, castable wax is meant for printing jewelry, so we want to show off a high detail jewelry part for that one. Let me bring up the sample part page and see if any of the other samples kind of come to mind as a good high detail one. Tough 1500, the pump housing. That one is a good high detail print as well. There's Gray Pro. Rigid 10K, the material I mentioned earlier in the video. That's a really good high detail material. Maybe not for... Well, no, even things like embossing or embedding in jewelry, I think the fidelity is going to be lower than the jewelry specific materials, but it'll still get you most of the way there if that's what you're looking for. And then obviously our dental materials, which are specific to that industry, but those are pretty detail oriented. Yeah, Tim. So for jewelry, Castable Wax 40 is the sample part you'd want to request for that one. It's a really lovely blue material, and it'll show up. I could be wrong with this. I believe we were at one point sending 2 copies of the ring in the sample so that you could potentially send one out to fire to see what the results would be before you make a purchasing decision. So, Stinson, I maybe if you got a CW40 sample, you might actually have a better handle on this than I do. If you got 2 rings or just 1, we were at one point sending 2 for that exact purpose. Jewelry is a cool industry. It's so insular and specific. All those tools are so specific to that industry. It's working at Formlabs has given me a really like broad understanding of a lot of different industries, and jewelry is one that is complicated and tricky. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Confirm there are 2 samples. I believe that was the case. The idea is that you can send 1 out for firing to see how it goes, and then keep 1 as the mold afterwards. Let's see. Anything else on folks' minds? Any other questions in general? Stuff you want to just mention to the chat? Go for it. We got another 15 minutes or so before I got to duck out. And I'm happy to hang out. Yeah, I guess while I'm waiting to see if anything else comes in, I can just Oh yeah, Tim. So Tim asks, can I send a design and see details? Good question. Our sales team is equipped to kind of evaluate parts and models that people send in. So if you're worried about things like print viability, or whatever, or you're just curious about whether the printer can get the fidelity you want, I'm not going to guarantee that we will always print people's parts that they send in, but if all the stars align and it feels like the right decision for that conversation, it's totally on the table for our sales team to print parts to make sure the printer will do what someone wants before they buy. Ooh. A bit niche, but asking if there's any approved methods for dyeing Formlabs resins. That is a really good question. So there's a couple avenues you can take for this. Obviously, you can dye a resin before you print, or you can dye a resin afterwards. In terms of before, there's a couple options. One is we sell a material called color. You'll be shocked to know it's for color. It comes with a what we call a base, which is just a white resin, and then the color kit also includes some droppers with not RGB, the other one, cyan, magenta, whatever, with a measuring pipette. So on our website, we have, if you want to achieve this type of green, you put in X milliliters of the green dye to that color-based cartridge. Then you shake the cartridge up, put it in your printer, and then obviously any print that comes out will be that green. The downsides to that method are you're obviously committing a cartridge to that color forever. You can't, outside of adding colors to change it, you obviously can't pull color back out of it once it's all homogeneous. The other option which you can do, which I'll say be a little wary of, but it's totally possible, is to do things like put a few drops of food coloring into the tank directly. Obviously, you are then, in a similar way to the cartridge with color, you're sort of committing that tank to that color forever by doing that. And I'll also mention, because some of our materials are opaque, some are transparent, some are translucent, your results may vary depending on what material you're using if you're dyeing materials that way. And then the other option is, again, if you wanted to dye afterwards. I've heard of people doing dyes in their alcohol wash, in their IPA wash after the print, and that is also possible to do. But again, you're kind of committing that IPA wash to be that color pretty severely for a while. So yeah, plenty of options for how to dye parts. I'd probably advocate for, well, I guess it depends on how many parts you're doing and how big they are. If you're doing a lot over time in the same color, then commit a cartridge to that. If you're just doing a one-off, I'd probably recommend do the color on the individual print during your post-processing steps. Steve, if you want to ask our online forums, which is just forum.formlabs.com, is a forum. It's the forum I manage for Formlabs. It's a great place to get sort of feedback from other people in the community. And if you went on there and asked, like, hey, how's everyone dyeing their parts? I bet people would be really enthusiastic to give you some tips about what that process is like. Chan asks, any guides on transitioning from FDM to SLA? I'm currently working on an FDM. Let me move my mouse. Project. Farm project. I'm looking to throw in an SLA machine. That is a great question. So, Chan, on the resources I put in chat a few minutes ago, specifically the first link, not the video one, you will find a ton of resources about the differences between SLA and FDM, how to approach FDM or SLA from a design standpoint, because obviously you need to take the FDM versus SLA print technology into account during the modeling process for things like adding drain holes, making sure there's no cupping, because obviously cupping isn't a problem you have on FDM because there's no vacuum being created on FDM, but on SLA, if you have a, let's say you had a concave dome that was being dropped into the liquid resin for each layer, obviously because it's being dropped into a liquid, you're then creating a vacuum, and you can reach a situation where the internal pressure is too different from the external pressure of the part during printing, and you'll get what we call a blowout, where the side of the part will blow out from the pressure. That's why I recommend putting in a drain hole, both for the liquid resin after the print and for the air pressure during the print itself. So yeah, Chen, I would recommend going through that page. If you have more questions after that, definitely feel free to reach out to our support team. While they are mostly there to help with hey, my printer's having problems type questions, they are also more than happy to help you direct to the resources we think you'd find most valuable. And I'm sure they'd be happy to take an email from someone who doesn't have a problem and just wants more information. So don't hesitate to do that. Estinson asks, is there any chance of an update to the Form 3 for safely dropping a print and checking on it? Great question. So we're always improving that stuff. Yeah, like the pausing an SLA print and restarting it later is a really, really difficult problem to solve, and we totally understand that it's one that people have, and we totally hear you on that. The issue is when a print is in the printer over time, and it's hanging in the printer, but the printer's not currently printing, the part will slowly shrink and morph a little bit, and it's really not that much, but it's enough that let's say a print is going overnight and it stops at 8 o'clock at night, and then it's sitting in the printer all night, and then in the morning you restart it. Chances are you'd see a really, really direct line there where the pause was, because that last layer shrunk a little bit, or the printer, scooted a tiny bit. There's a lot of things can happen during that pause. So the challenge for our software team is figuring out a way to safely restart prints while accounting for the fact that the pause could be 30 seconds or 48 hours over a weekend. I realize that's not a great answer, and we totally understand that's an issue people have, but that's the real kind of meat of it from our end, is figuring out how to do that safely. And I'll mention, we are always trying to improve that stuff over time. Those sorts of questions and concerns do not go unnoticed. We try to surface them up to our software team as much as we can. But yeah, there's a lot of complicated stuff involved in that process. Steve says SLA is a totally different beast than FDM. Bunch of YouTube videos about it. Yeah, totally. And yeah, I mentioned this. I feel like I mention this every video, but I'll keep doing it because I think it's worth saying. We think there is a place in everyone's workflow for multiple different kinds of 3D printers. FDM is good for some things and less good for others. SLA is good for some things and less good for others. You know, you have FDM is often cheaper and often faster, but often has significantly less detail, whereas SLA is often a little more expensive, but and a little slower, but much higher detail ceiling available. So yeah, we think we will never say that you shouldn't use FDM. There are uses for all these things, all these technologies, and yeah, it's a cool space to be in. Jack, I'm sorry you're late. No worries. This will be recorded. Honestly, if you even want to just skip back to the beginning right now and just start over, go for it. You can see it from the beginning. If you have any questions, I'm happy to hang out for another 5 minutes or so and answer them. If you had anything on your mind, I'd be more than happy to answer. And yeah, since like we're always working on that stuff. Things like print time estimates, we always can do better. Talk about complicated, like the amount of math and variability that goes into those print time calculations is immense. But also we're always trying to do a better job, and we have not done a great job in the past of making those estimates accurate. So that's another example of one of those things that like it's always in progress, always trying to be updated, and then hopefully with a firmware update, we can improve that stuff over time. Jack may or may not have ordered a 3L a couple days ago. Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. I hope you like it. What industry are you in? What are you planning on using the 3L for? I'd love to know. And whether it's, did you go it for your garage or for office? That's always a fun question. I haven't heard of anyone, I don't think yet. I'm sure people have. It just hasn't gotten onto my radar. Someone kind of getting a 3L for their home studio. I think mostly it's been small businesses so far, but I'd be so curious to know. And yeah, if anyone else has any last questions, like I said, I got a few more minutes. I'm happy to hang out and answer them. He doesn't know. He just bought it because he needed it, and I think we can all sympathize. Cool, for home use. That's awesome. That's great. Honestly, if you have interesting experiences using a 3L in a home environment, I'd encourage you to let us know how that goes. I think some members of the 3L team would love to like, because it's such a rare use case for that machine, I'm sure they'd love to get your read on what that process has been like when you do receive the printer. They're always curious to know kind of what all those different environments and situations are like. Oh wow, Jack is an original backer from the Form 1 days. That's awesome. Well, hopefully you're not obligated, but we really appreciate it, and I'm so glad to know you have had good experiences with our products all the way through the process. Yeah, I joined Formlabs right after the Form 2 came out, so I joined the Formlabs as a service agent on the support team, so I was trained on how to support the Form 1 and 1 Plus, and I think I was one of the last probably 5 people to be trained heavily on that machine before it wasn't quite worth the time anymore. Yeah, I know they do. Yeah, Jack says his Form 1 is in rough shape. Yeah, I know it's tough to keep those things running after a while, and I feel so bad. I felt so bad when I was on services and people would say like, hey, where can I get the laser module because I need to swap mine out, and we never had great answers for that, and that stinks. It's never a good feeling to have to tell someone that like we're not able to provide the resources they need to get their machine up and running. It's frustrating for the customer, rightfully so, and I'll just mention it's equally frustrating, maybe not equally, it is also frustrating from the service agent point of view, because generally we do want people to be printing. We don't want people to not have that option. And yeah, it stinks when that's not available. The tilt motor is, yeah, totally. Yeah, we had a closet full of those peel motors for a long time that we were sending out to folks just like you who needed a new one. Honestly, I'd be happy to ask our support team if they have any spares buried somewhere that we could pass around. It's a pretty crazy thing. Stinson also has 4-month plus. Awesome! Wow, that's so cool. We got some 4-month plus users in here. So I don't need to explain to you guys the the evolution over time of these products. Parth asks, what's your thinking for metal 3D printing? Parth, that's a really good question. Metal 3D printing is a really exciting new field. Much like SLS, there's a lot of inherent difficulty in the printing process that makes it difficult to bring down to a more consumer scale. I'm not an expert on this, but I believe industrial metal 3D printers need to have things like neon gas in them, like an inert gas in the build volume, and having that sort of product on a desk scale with, inert gases involved is an immensely difficult challenge from an engineering perspective. Similar to the challenges we faced, but I'd say more severe than what we did with the Fuse with SLS. It's a similar idea of how, there's sort of ancillary things about the process that make it so tricky. But yeah, metal 3D printing is super cool. Like I said, Desktop Metal is local to us here in the Boston area in Massachusetts, and they're making amazing stuff. Yeah, Jack, when you have to go to AliExpress, I know that's sort of the bottom of the barrel. I apologize for that difficulty. That's never much fun. Were you able to find a stepper motor on AliExpress? That's amazing if that is possible. I guess they sort of have everything there, but yeah, I'd still be wary of it. Maybe that'd be a fun video segment, is if I ordered a bunch of 3D printers off of Wish or AliExpress or something and set them up just to see what they were like. That could be a fun thing. Chan asks, you covered a bit about career-related stuff. What are your thoughts on LinkedIn versus applying directly? Great question, Chan. I don't have a firm answer, but I think applying directly is the way to go. From what I experienced myself and what I've heard from other people, I think that's the most direct way to get your foot in the door, is to apply directly for the position you're interested in and go from there. Jack was able to find one, but it was too low of a price. So low that it felt weird, like you were worried about it. I kind of sympathize with that, I'm sure, on AliExpress. That's a dicey proposition, especially when something feels too good to be true and you're not sure if it's legit what the picture's showing you. Oh, Jack's an XSL printer, which is 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter from Alibaba. Wow. Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. What are you using a 1 meter printer for? I'd just be is it are you able to get end use products out of it, or is it just sort of, do the layers come out too brittle and broad to be usable for I'm trying to think of what I would use. Yeah. Printing fixtures for furniture or headphone holders for my desk or something. I'm trying to think of what I would use a 1 meter printer for. Those 3D pens are really cool, though. I love those 3D hot solid ink 3D pens. Those things are really neat. Oh, Simpson, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Your Form 1 Plus is still working. That's fantastic. Do you have a Form 2 as well, or did you skip over some after the 1 Plus? I guess you might not have needed to upgrade if your 1 Plus is still chugging along. That's awesome. Done mod, so it's pretty good layers. Cool. A bike in one go. Wow. That's awesome. I would love to see if you can get pictures of that up in a comment on this video or something like that, please do so. I would love to see what a one print bike looks like. That sounds fun. Chen asks, printing custom car panels. That's a cool thing. And yeah, when you get that big, that's something that becomes more doable. I'm a big car person, so I'm always excited when I see things like people using our printers for concept cars and the resto mod scene in cars of a car that's out of production and has been for 30 years and they don't make parts for it anymore, but an enterprising person will model the part and then 3D print a mold and then get a small batch run of that part sent out for, the enthusiasts of that car. I think that industry is so fascinating and cool. Custom car dashboard to fit the biggest iPad. Yeah, just turn your car into a Tesla dashboard. That's cool. Steve says that his company got one of the big Modex printers that could print props at full scale without having them do them in pieces. Yeah, I think that's a cool use as well. I bet some prop makers would probably even prefer to do it in pieces so that they have some wiggle room on a failure. Like if you do it all in one go and you have a problem, that's probably a lot harder to solve from a production standpoint than having individual pieces that you can swap out over time. Yeah, if you want to put it on a social media, Jack, as well, or whatever, you can always tag Formlabs on Instagram or Twitter, and our social media manager will absolutely see it. Feel free to say you saw this roundup, and he'll pass it right to me. That'd be great. We've gone a little over time, but which is totally fine because you guys were asking great questions, and I'm really enjoying myself. But I think we'll wrap up in just a minute. Yeah, failures at that scale can be pretty intense. Yeah, even talking Steve about those like Adam Savage videos, I always think like he does everything in components, and I'm guessing that probably makes it easier to do things like fitment and repairability, even if you can swap parts individually out over time on stuff as you go. Here's a great question. I think it's a good one to end on from Benjamin. Benjamin, thank you for joining us. I'm great to see you in chat. Will Formlabs ever consider making an FDM printer you could call it the Form Squirt? I love the Form Squirt. That's a great name. Yeah, I mean, nothing to announce. And I don't say that in a like wink wink we're working on stuff way, just like there's nothing to talk about now, but I will say we are always looking for ways to democratize this industry as much as we can. Obviously the Form 1, 2, 3 is about democratizing SLA and bringing it from a $50,000, $100,000, $250,000 room scale machine down to a desktop machine. That's was our bread and butter, and obviously that was a successful idea. The Fuse SLS, same sort of idea. Those machines are often extremely expensive and large, and the idea was, can we get it down to a sort of workbench top scale size? And yeah, there's nothing inherently stopping us from approaching that same problem with other types of 3D printing. And again, I'm not wink wink nudging in any way, just saying we are always looking to sort of expand access to 3D printing so that anyone can make anything, as I inadvertently say our company mission. Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you so much again for joining us for this session. This was so much fun. I love doing these. Like I mentioned, if you have feedback from me for how I can do things differently, what more you'd like to see, please go to the Google form down below. It's completely anonymous. I read all those responses. I love seeing how I can make this thing better. Please leave me some feedback. And yeah, I hope everyone has a really terrific rest of your week. It's been such a good time. If you have questions that I didn't get to, like I said, ping us on social media, join us on our forums, forum.formlabs.com. Say hi there. If you reach out to DL Kirch, DLKIRCH on our forums, that's my username. I'm moderating there all the time. You can find me and ask me stuff if you're curious. And Chan says you'd like to tour Formlabs one day. Chan, I would love for you to have the opportunity to tour Formlabs one day. I hope we have that chance soon, that people can come to our office again and walk around. it's a cool place. We love seeing people walk around. We really like showing off what we can to people who are in the area. So that'd be great. Yeah, thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you soon, and keep printing.